Hello and welcome to Legends of the Wind. I hope you guys are doing great today. It has been a crazy, hectic day for me and my guest, and I'm so excited to present our guest story to you tonight. I'm really pumped. I have to tell you guys, I literally just finished writing the story about 20 minutes ago, and it's really good, guys. It's really good. And my guest, Grant, who I'll be bringing on in a moment, also was running behind as well. Both of us had a crazy day with our jobs and everything. And so I'm excited because this story is very powerful. This story is very unique. And I think that it's relevant to every bit of one of us. So welcome to the show. I'm Jurri Schenck, and welcome to Legends of the Wind. You know, one of the things I like to ask about our show is, what does it mean to become a legend? To become a legend, you have to think about it symbolically, which is not like, oh, I'm super famous or look how great I am. Legends have a function on a map, and they kind of tell you where things are and what things mean and where things are, what direction you're taking, and how do you belong on a map. And the stories we do here on Legends of the Wind do that for our guests and for our people I write about. And it's about giving them a sense of direction, of identity and destiny. It tells them who they are through discovery of a revelation, and gives them a sense of their quest, and it lets them finish their story, or lets them finish their parable. And that's what these legends do for everyone. And the thing is, even though they're written for someone specific, all of us can benefit from someone's story. All of us can learn from what their tale is about, and helps us finish our own hero's journey. So it's really a good thing to know what story you're in. Now, last broadcast was amazing. I had Shariah Moon on the show. It was live in studio. She was here with me. And I read her story called The Emerald Dress. And oh my gosh, she was so moved by her story. She was crying from the very beginning all the way through. She's 17 years old, and her parents allowed her to be on the show. And she actually asked me for a story. And for our youth, I don't charge money for them. And so if you have someone that's a minor, we can tell stories for minors for free here. And Shariah was deeply moved by this story, and it talked about her on a journey of finding out her identity, and this dress, this emerald dress, is so special to her. Well, the thing is, yesterday, I was at an event at the state park here in my hometown of Thermopolis, Wyoming, and I was doing my job and also helping my wife sell at the booth. And Shariah came up to me wearing her emerald dress, and she says, I hear you're supposed to tell a story at the writer's booth. And I was wondering, would you tell my story? And I had an idea of what I was going to say anyway, but this completely changed my plan. And it was so amazing. She had her printout of her story that I read to her at the broadcast. And I had a group of people show up that wanted to listen to me. And I read Shariah's story again with her in her emerald dress in the park, and all sorts of people were there, and it was a really powerful time. And Shariah was again deeply moved. And so it was such an amazing thing to celebrate someone's life in their story. And so that was another fresh off the boat example of telling people's story and helping encourage them and giving a model and examples of what this looks like to the people there. Now, if you want to have your own story, if you want to order one, go to legendsofthewind.com. And go to our store and look for the product, Become a Legend. And we have a sale going on right now. Now, typically a story will cost $250. And right now it's 60% off with $99 at your price at this time. And I want to encourage you to get your own story, because these stories will really revolutionize your life. They'll really bring a lot of hope and change and encouragement to help you better your life. So there's a couple agreements that we have involved. One is a release that you sign to become on the podcast. Now, if you do not want to show up on the show, I will still do your story. And just so you know, that is an option. But we would love to have you on our show if possible. Now, also, there's another agreement of a contract, because there's a transaction involved, and we need to have the rights to publish your story as I create it. And it's just basic stuff, really. Now, if you want to order an illustration, now, I've been showing off these two books for a while now. I'll show it to you. My wife, Alisha Choi, paints these amazing covers of illustrations, or hardbound or softbound covers for your story. And your story is a single print. It comes in this form or this form, and it's beautiful because it has your story in it. So a single print. It's a keepsake for yourself. Well, we just got in the mail just a couple days ago Robbie Little's story. The clock is ticking, with her painting from Alisha of her robin bird. And so this is a beautiful, wonderful. It feels good. It just looks good. It has a great matte finish. And also, Alisha wanted me to show you another printout of her painting for her cover. So if you want to order an illustration from us, you can do that as well. And we also have our book that we have for our first volume. These contain 20 prophetic stories, short stories written for children and adults, boys and girls. These are amazing adventures and revelations of hidden treasures in them. So go to Amazon or go to our website, legendsofthewind.com, and pick up this book too. It is really worth your time. And just because they're written for other people does not mean you won't benefit from them. They're amazing, very immersive visual stories. And we even have an audio version of the book where it's not just me reading the story, it's the immersive audio theater where it has music and sound design and all sorts of adventures going in your mind and your mind's eyes. Beautiful stuff. Now, that's enough of the business. I'd like to welcome you to the show. Now, tonight's guest is Grant Anderson. So Grant, welcome to the show. I'm bringing you on board. Oh no, I forgot to put his assignment on. Just a second, guys. Hold on a moment. Thank you very much for your patience. All right, Grant Anderson. Hello, welcome, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you, Jurri?
Great. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm so excited for meeting you.
Yeah, no, I'm really pumped to meet you and to see what the story unfolds.
Sure,
So,
sure. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
uh, yeah, let's see. That's a great question. My name's Grant. I'm from Washington State. I'm really big into loving and helping people. I make cider for a living currently right now. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Great. Well, thank you. And by the way, why did you request a prophetic story?
Um, Actually, a friend of mine, which I'm sure a lot of you would know, she's amazing. Her name's Marcia Hayes, and
Yes.
she gave me a gift of a story, and I said, "Oh, absolutely, I would love a story." So thank you, Marcia, for the story.
Yes, and Marcia's a stellar super fan. And speaking of super fans, we have in our chat audience my wife Alisha and Kylie. Marcia said, Grant, I'm excited to hear your story. I hope she's still with us. So, Marcia, if you are still with us, say hi again. And Mike Smith is our super fan as well. He says, hello, Grant, and welcome. So, this is an amazing time of people to come on board and celebrate you. So, your story is titled The Child Within. And one of the things that we do here about introducing people to prophetic stories is that you have to learn how to handle it. Now, I want you to understand, Grant, that this story is not a literal story. It's a symbolic story. It's meant to be interpreted, kind of like interpreting a dream. And the story is a revelation. And after we read the story, we're going to have a conversation. And that's when we interpret this story and we get to learn what is it in your life and in the story that connects. And afterward, you get to have the idea of, well, how do you apply this story to your life? Like, what do you do with it? Now, you have a choice also. You can say, yes, I accept this story. I think that this is awesome. Or, no, I do not accept this story. I don't want it and I don't like it. Or you can say, I want parts and I don't want parts. And also, you may need time to process it. You may need to say, I need to sit on this and go and look at this later. Now, as I told you just before we got started, that everyone who's a guest is like what I call drinking from a fire hose of revelation. And so when the story finishes, we're going to have a moment where we're going to regroup our thoughts and get ready. And you're going to have to go, okay, now how do we begin the conversation? So just be aware that that's what happens to everybody. And of course, we invite the audience and the guests to chat, make comments, ask questions, and things like that. Okay, sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. So I have a little thing I like to say every show is, do you know what time it is, Grant?
I believe the answer to that is it's story time. Is
It's
that
right.
yeah.
It's story time. Okay. Now your story is a little long, just so you know. So it's a powerful image. All right. You ready?
Yeah, let's
Here we
go.
go. All right. The child within. The street outside the prison was dark on a cloudy night. Puddles from a recent rain covered the cobblestone pavement and potholes. The smell would have been refreshing in other locations, but the aroma smelled like sick vinegar. Grant stepped around the pools of water with care so that his boots would not get soaked. Tonight was a night that filled Grant's heart with anxiety. He was on a difficult mission that many do not accept. The previous day was sunny, and Grant packed up his belongings. He lived in a bunkhouse with some of his soldier friends. They had lived together for about 2 years, training and gaining strength. They all became close because together they had learned to depend on each other in the thick of warfare. But those many exercises were tests and not the real ordeal. But on this day, Grant put together his belongings and stuffed his backpack. The mood in the bunkhouse was sober, and no one said any words. Each man was to go their separate ways on their individual missions. Different men had different tasks at hand, but they didn't know what those missions would be until their general gave them their orders. They only knew that this was a quest of life and death. Grant fist bumped some of his friends, and they all stood outside, ready to go and at full attention. The general arrived. Grant stood up with his back straight. Inside, he felt confident and sure. The general handed each man an envelope with their orders and whispered in their ears, shook hands, and then they left. Grant was the last man standing. The general stood in front of Grant and looked straight into his eyes. He had a stern look on his face and examined Grant's demeanor. Son, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is one of the most harrowing ones a man can take. Those other boys I just sent off on all had other missions, not as difficult as yours. You, however, are on a rescue mission, and you must go alone. The general handed the white envelope to Grant and whispered in his ear and said, if you succeed on this quest, you will find the greatest fulfillment and success you could ever know. If you fail, you will live a life of increasing difficulty and frustrations abound. But I want you to take a look at yourself. You are a good man, a confident man. You've got what it takes, and I believe in you. The general stopped whispering and straightened up. He asked Grant, do you accept this mission? Grant thought hard for a moment and saluted. Yes, sir, yes, sir. The general shook Grant's hand and patted his shoulder. He ordered him, then go. Now this story brings us back to Grant outside the prison in the dark night. Grant snuck around some wooden wagons that were outside a gate. There were 2 guards sitting on boxes asleep. All above the gate was an arch with writing on it. It said, those who wander are not all lost. With silent footsteps, Grant approached the gate and found it unlocked. He pushed the door open slowly, and it made a creaking sound. Grant held his breath in fear and saw one of the guards raise his head and scratch his nose. He fell back asleep. Grant took a deep breath and moved on. Grant saw before him a large yard covered in torn grass. The lights of the prison were dim and projected an orange tint. Up ahead and to the right on the perimeter were the prison cells. Grant had to find the right number. As Grant walked down the yard, he counted that there were only 27 cells. Suddenly the ground shook with an earthquake. The prison cells rattled and their doors shook. In the yard, out in the front of the cell block, a dark mist swirled and spun around. The atmosphere changed to the smell of sulfur, and it had a bitter taste. This change of senses made Grant nauseous in his stomach. He wasn't sure if he wanted to stay or leave. Grant watched the black mist collect into the shape of a dragon. The beast was enormous, and its eyes glowed red. It grew larger and flapped its wings to rise above the field, and it lowered its neck to look around. The dragon peered and saw Grant, who had his back against the wall of prison cell 27. Grant felt great fear in his heart, and he held his breath, not knowing what to do. The dragon roared and then spoke. "Who are you? Why have you come?" Grant replied, "I'm Grant. I'm on a rescue mission." The dragon snarled and asked, "Do you dare come here? Don't you know that this is the darkest place in your soul? I am a threshold guardian. You may not pass." Grant gained some strength and aimed his rifle at the dragon and declared, "Be careful, or I will shoot." The dragon roared out a belly laugh and then said, "You think a little bullet will harm me? You do not know what you're up against." Grant realized this dragon made a lot of noise and should awaken the guards or even the prisoners. Grant then looked into the cell number 27 and saw the prisoner. To Grant's surprise, he saw a man that looked just like himself, laying down asleep on the bed. The man was dressed in his soldier attire. This discovery made Grant's mind go reeling. How could he be here alive and conscious, and yet see himself at the same age asleep in the prison cell? The dragon roared again and bellowed, "Do you think you can defeat me? Come and try." Grant turned back to face the dragon. The dragon snarled and puffed himself up in greater size. He declared, "I am the one you must defeat." The dragon roared again, an even louder scream. The sound tore a pain inside Grant's heart, and he grabbed his chest as if he were having a heart attack. He dropped to his knees. The dragon smiled with pleasure and said, "Good. Worship me." Grant tried to get his strength back. He made a fist and hit the ground and said, "No!" But when Grant hit the ground with his fist, the whole yard shook. The doors of the prison cells rattled again, and the results of his action surprised Grant. The dragon screeched, "How dare you!" Grant stood up on his feet and stomped the ground. He yelled, "No!" The earth shook again, and one door down the prison bank opened up. The dragon turned to look and saw the door open. He roared again and flew over toward it. Grant walked down the cell block and looked into each compartment. Starting with 27 and descending in numbered order, Grant saw each cell had a sleeping Grant of the same age as the prison cell number. Grant watched himself being younger and younger as he walked. All of his younger selves were fast asleep. As he viewed different ages of himself, certain memories from that time came to his attention. These memories would fill him with either joy or pain. The images of events passed in front of his mind. He couldn't believe some of the things that happened to him. The pain and trauma, the joy and the delight. Some things he forgot, and the reminder of these memories shook his heart. Grant wanted to cry as he saw these times of his soul. The dragon snarled and guarded cell number 3 as it hovered outside. Grant came to cell number 3 with its door wide open. The dragon snarled and slithered around, seeking to intimidate Grant. A fierceness inside Grant's heart rose, and he marched forward. The dragon opened his mouth and laid his head low on the ground. He said, "I am ready for my meal." It surprised Grant that the dragon didn't attack, and he wondered why the beast waited with his mouth open. Then the soldier turned to look inside of the cell number 3 and stepped inside. In the corner was a small boy sitting with his knees held up and his arms holding his legs. The boy shivered in fear. Many tears had fallen from his cheeks. The child looked up at Grant in fear. "Who are you? Where's Daddy?" Grant knelt down, touched the boy's shoulder, and gently said, "I will take care of you now. Come to me. I will carry you out of here." The boy hesitated and pulled back. He said, "No, you'll hurt me again." Grant said, "I will not harm you. I'm here to help. Come with me. I will give you a safe place, a home." Grant opened up his arms and beckoned little Grant. Little Grant stiffened his nose and looked deep into the soldier's eyes. With a burst of energy, little Grant hopped up and jumped into the elder's arms and wrapped around his body. The soldier stood up and turned around to exit the cell to face the dragon. The dark, smelly beast watched the soldier and licked his lips. He said, I like the young ones. They most tasty and delicious. Little Grant hid his face in the soldier's chest and shivered in fear. The warrior stood firm on his feet and declared to the dragon, You have no authority here. Be gone, you beast. I will no longer take these lies of fear from you. This is my child, and I will father him now. You have done nothing good for him. I send you back to the hell where you came from. The soldier stomped his foot on the ground in a forward step as if to intimidate the dragon. The whole earth shook, and the dragon gasped with fear, with his eyes wide open. Grant realized what had happened, and Grant charged after the dragon, carrying the boy, and yelled, Ah! The dragon screamed in terror and scrambled backwards. He flapped his wings and flew away into the sky. Grant cried out, Begone! Be destroyed! The dragon flew higher, and at the moment of Grant's orders, 2 bolts of lightning struck the dragon and disintegrated into a ball of flames that turned into pieces of ash. The debris of the dragon fell to the earth and dissolved into the soil. Grant ran out of the prison and carried the boy in his arms down the street. He took him home and bathed him and fed him. The soldier cared for the child and made him well, assuring him of love through actions, time spent together, and with words of love and affirmation. The times they played together, the boy never forgot. Soon little Grant came to know that a father truly loves him and will protect him. One day, while the soldier was playing ball with little Grant, the child asked, Dad, do you believe I can do anything? The soldier said, Anything. You got it, kid. Chase your dreams. We can do them together. Little Grant caught the ball and ran into the arms of the soldier and embraced him. The peace inside their hearts filled their souls to the brim. Inception. That's where I end.
Oh, no, that's awesome. Like you said, it was drinking from a fire hose. That's for
Yep.
sure.
Yes.
Gonna have to replay that.
Yes, and I have it here, so I can always go back and help you, and I will get you a copy afterward. And I actually am due to give several people copies because my life's been so busy, but this
worry.
story just came.
Yeah.
So I hope that maybe something in your heart is popping up, or an idea, something you want to share, what you're feeling, something like that. There's a lot of elements and ideas in this story, and we can just start wherever you feel ready.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you're like cell 27. I was like, what the heck, cell 27? And then I was like, okay, and that was like, okay, that has to do with my age probably. And then which it does, I feel like. And then cell 3 is interesting. I mean, it's hard because I have a pretty gnarly story.
Really? By the way, I want to tell the audience before you go on, I never met you before, have I?
No, you haven't.
And I literally had 12 minutes before the show to kind of get you on the board, right? So I want to communicate to the audience that I've never interviewed you, never communicated with you, nothing, right? So
No.
go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a unique story. I mean, we all have unique stories, But yeah, it's just a unique story. So I think 3 is kind of interesting too. Like, well, I guess we could first start with like the child within, and then I wrote down some notes like prison. I thought that was really interesting. And I guess maybe we could start like, I do feel like I'm on this like mission that many don't take, but I really don't know what the mission is. Or I often feel like I don't know what the mission is.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a spot where we could start.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think this story is telling you about yourself, or your life, or your past, or your future?
Definitely I was able to like relate to, I feel like there's definitely kind of like a war within, kind of, with just kind of like my upbringing and my childhood and just who I am as a man and stuff. So like, I definitely do believe that there's some wrestling there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so that
Wow.
stuck out.
Good.
But
I mean, you can only share what you feel you want to share. I'm not going to try to have you go anywhere you feel uncomfortable, just so you know that.
okay,
What is it about? What about the general? How do you feel about that character?
could you go back to
Yes.
the yeah.
So the general, here's your character is a soldier,
Mm-hmm.
and the general gives you orders, right?
Yeah.
And it says, "Son, I'll read this couple paragraphs. Son, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is one of the most harrowing ones a man can take. Those other boys I just sent off all had other missions, not as difficult as yours. You, however, are on a rescue mission, and you must go alone." The general handed the white envelope to Grant and whispered in his ear and said, "If you succeed on this quest, you will find the greatest fulfillment and success you could ever know. If you fail, you will live a life of increasing difficulty and frustrations abound. But I want you to take a look at yourself. You are a good man, a confident man. You've got what it takes, and I believe in you." That's what he said. And then he said, "Do you accept the mission?"
Yeah. And your question was like, what do I think of that character?
Yeah.
Or
What
yeah.
do you what does it mean to you? Anything?
Uh that could be like so many different things.
Sure it could.
It's yeah, no, it's I think that is true because it's like it's hard because of I do feel like there is like a sense of what's the word? Um
Purpose?
well yeah, there's I feel like there's purpose, but at the same time sometimes I would say kind of in my story it's been hard finding my purpose, or it seems
Mm.
like there's a lack of purpose.
Okay.
Or like it hasn't been blatantly clear,
Mm-hmm.
like here it is, where I've been kind of taking zigzags. Like you mentioned one spot. Well, I'll finish with that. The fear part was kind of like, oh wow, there's a lot of
Mm.
pressure, and I feel like I could mess this up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was one spot that oh shoot, I just lost it. Hmm. Hopefully it'll come back. Lord, bring it back.
Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah.
So let me help you out. So
Sure.
the general represents a call to action, or
Okay.
a call to adventure.
Okay.
And when he in the story, it doesn't tell you what the mission is. It just simply says it's a rescue mission.
Mm-hmm.
But as we watch the story unfold, we progressively learn what is it all about, right? And just so you know, I literally just wrote this. The last third I wrote like just before the show. And then the last night I had written the previous part. I had to sleep, and so I don't know when I get these stories what happens. I don't have them planned out, and I literally watch them unfold as they go. And so I am living it with you when I get these downloads.
Mm-hmm.
And so with this general, it's a call to action, a call to adventure, and it's a rescue mission. And isn't it interesting that you're rescuing yourself?
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that you're age 27? And by the way, you did tell me that in your application, in your
Mm-hmm.
order, and I knew that, but I didn't know what was going to happen here. And so it's a rescue mission of yourself, and so it's interesting that each cell has a different age. What do you think about that?
uh, I find that very interesting. Yeah, I don't. It's really hard to. Well, it's interesting too because I'm reading this book by John Elridge right now.
Oh,
And he. It's not Wild at Heart. I think it's like
the
Father.
way the
It's
way of
like
the wild heart.
no. It's
Okay.
like um, Fathered by God or something like that. I think that's
Yes.
the book. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. This is awesome.
So yeah, I'm rereading it again. I
Oh
listened
my
to it
gosh.
once. So Um, but I don't, I mean, yeah, I find it really interesting. I think just like my childhood and my upbringing of how things have happened in my life, like, different things of the cells, but I don't really know what to make of it. It's kind of interesting going back into some of those younger
Sure.
me.
Sure. I'll help you with this because actually
Sure.
this is a concept I'm familiar with. So the fact that you mentioned John Eldridge in the Fathered by God, right? Is that the title? I forget.
I think that's the title of the book. Yeah.
I am heavily influenced by John Eldridge's books. I'm very influenced by Narnia and Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, another author of Madeleine the Ingle. Those are like my bread and butter when it comes to this stuff. So those are like the fantasy writing kind of stuff. And those are my foundations as a creative. But when it
Mm-hmm.
came to my purpose and my journey of identity and my needing of not healings,
Yeah.
I was heavily influenced by John Eldridge. From Wild at Heart to Captivating to The Way of the Wild Heart to all sorts of books that he wrote, and The Journey of Desire. And so a lot of my themes come from understanding myself through for what John Eldridge wrote about. And so with Fathered by God is like, one of the things that these prison cells represent is these are places that are called times of the soul. And I
Mm-hmm.
heard that term and that phrase, times of the soul, from a man named Kim Clement. He was a
Okay.
prophetic voice prophet. He's passed away now, but he indirectly mentored me. I went to his meetings all the time, and I learned from him how to do what I do with these prophetic stories. So Kim really, his model, his example, invested in me. And so I learned from heavenly experiences with him as well how to do what I do. But it had to do with times of the soul. So this prison, each cell is a different age. And what I've come to learn for myself is that inside of me is a little Jurri. And inside of you is a little Grant. But the thing is, it's not just one. It's different ages. It's different times of your life where you experience different things, different traumas, abuse, neglect, or good things, celebrations, or whatever. It's just like it's almost like a time travel with yourself. And when we are an adult and we have something rise up in us that just makes us aggravated and upset, and we don't know why, and I'm pissed off, and I want to beat up somebody, or I want to kill myself. It's typically something inside of you in your
Mm-hmm.
prison cell at a certain age that boy needs a father, needs love. And so you can go to the different prison cells and rescue that child. And different ages have different things that happened. And in that child, it represents a place of trauma. What do you do with that, right? So you have to come and you have to, he has a voice. The child has a voice, has something to say. Something happened, something wrong, and it's meant to be when that child shows up. It's meant to be, I'm ready to be dealt with now, even though it's aggravated and upset. It's like, I'm here, help me. And then you
Mm-hmm.
can come and you can minister to it and be a father to it. You can trade the pain, trade the anger away into Father and receive his healing. It's that
Mm-hmm.
simple. I know I don't want to oversimplify it and do it out of spite, but it is meant to be a trade. So when the child shows up and goes, I'm here, I'm hurting, I'm angry, it's you say, what is it you're saying? What happened to you? And it's not necessarily you have to remember this specific event. It means that it's there. What does it feel? And I trade in to your Father the pain and anger, whatever it is, and receive healing. And if you need to do something, like if you say I ask for forgiveness for something I did, or the shame, you can deal with that too. And so I know that this is a unique story and a concept that maybe many people haven't heard, but it's really practical. Using this story as a practical sense to help you. So Grant, that's kind of like a short version of what this teaching could be if we could create a teaching from it. But this is
Mm-hmm.
a story with revelation because it's about you. And it's about what happened at age 3. And also, it's about all of us, because all of us have had these prison cells that we need to come and work on and rescue. For me, I have to tell you, I told my wife last night after I was in the middle of the store, I said, Alisha, I've graduated now to another place. I've graduated to another place because now I know I have unhindered access to my little Jurris. When I started getting this download, I realized that I had grown so much in my healing journey. Now I have full access to all my Jurris. And now there's some work to be done. And so that's something I want to help encourage you, that's where you're going to go if you take this mission on. So I know I've talked a lot now. What do you think? How's this hitting your heart?
No, I mean, I feel like it's pretty spot on. It's just,
oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been kind of the journey that I've been trying to, navigate or walk it out. So it's just, it's not like a to B kind of thing.
No, it's not.
So, yeah.
Good. Marcia has said in the chat, she says hi to you. She says, Grant, you have an adventurous heart, and I can see you on a mission affecting others' lives in a significant way. And then she also said, I have tears. This is really cool.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I understand that you may not want to go too deep with the audience, and I get that. And so don't feel like any pressure from me, okay?
Yeah.
So, I want to encourage you to read John Eldredge's books. Just dive into that stuff. He's so good. It's funny because like our company that we have for our business is called Think Mythic. And I got that idea of the name from his books. And I learned about using prophetic stories this way because the idea is this conversation is to help people who have received a story to think mythically about their lives. And that idea of thinking mythically in that captured phrase comes from John Eldredge. He talked about what is this God speaking not just in the Bible. And it's not to say the Bible isn't less than. Yeah. God does speak in the Bible, absolutely. We know from him that way. But he also speaks through nature. He speaks through popular culture, through music, through movies, through books, through paintings, through dance, through sculpture, through all sorts of ways. And it's up to us. Are we paying attention to his voice? And so John Eldredge talked about lots of books and movies about our lives as men and women. And he talked about looking at that and interpreting it and talked about thinking mythically. He had a way of explaining things without using heavy-handed religious language, the Christianese that we all say, oh, praise the Lord, brother, good, hallelujah. And no, but I as you can tell I'm talking about really important things.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm using symbolic visual language to give you, Grant, revelation. Do you follow me? And
yeah,
so
I follow.
I learned all of this from John Eldredge and others. And so that is how I operate, and that's how we came on this journey. So what do you think about this dragon?
I mean, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed to say that.
That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of, I'd love to hear it again and go back.
Yeah.
But that kind of seems like it hits a little bit for sure. But yeah, it's just kind of, I feel like the biggest like war within is like kind of like realizing, like looking that it's like I'm not afraid of the dragon. It's kind of like looking within, and not so much I'm not afraid to like go there. I just don't really know how to handle it or what I will do or what it all means. You know what I mean? So I think that was like the bigger fear factor of like, okay, the war within,
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. The war within. I heard this phrase, and I'm not certain exactly which culture it comes from, but there's a saying that there are two wolves that live inside your heart. and one wants to help you and one wants to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with the wolves? And the answer is you feed the one that brings you life, and you
Yeah.
starve the one that wants to eat you. And it's funny is that this dragon is inside this prison cell, and it wants to eat the little boy, the little Grant, the little
Oh, yeah,
Jurri.
that's right.
He wants
Mm-hmm.
to eat it. You thought I was watching this story happen, and I thought the dragon would like blow fire and burn Grant, or he would swipe away and strike him or something. No, I was like curious as I was reading this or writing this. He was wanting to eat. He's like and he wanted to take out the prison cell, that child, and eat him. I think that's the same thing as the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost like, what are you going to do, Grant? Who are you going to feed?
Well, definitely not the bad
Right,
wolf, or
right,
yeah.
right. And so, what is the practical thing of, helping feed the good wolf, right? The one that helps you, brings life. Well, be a dad to yourself. One of the things that we did in the last broadcast with Shariah is that Shariah met a woman named Jasmine in her
Mm-hmm.
story. And Jasmine was this motherly person. And this story was about her, Shariah's identity, and had to do with her beauty. And I discovered while on the show, if you go back and look and you can watch it and me say it, I suddenly realized that Jasmine was the same person as Shariah, but it was a mom, and it was a motherly figure. And so I want to say to you, Grant, you're 27 years old. You are growing into the areas of maturity as a man, your masculine soul, your masculine self. Your identity is a solid, confident man that has certain things inside of his heart that need help with. And the idea is that you definitely need Father God to help you. You need to receive his love. Sometimes we really need mentors in our lives, but one of the biggest things that we have to learn, if we can recognize it, is to come to be a parent to ourselves. Where we go, okay, little Jurri, I love you. I'm going to take care of you. And I ask that you forgive me for being abusive to you and hating you. I am so sorry that we hated each other. But I'm an adult now, and I'm going to be here and I'm going to take care of you. And I'm not going to abuse you anymore. I'm not going to feed the dragon. I'm not going to feed the wolf. I'm going to help you be loved. And so that's part of loving and nurturing yourself. So, part of a man is there's still a feminine side in a man, a
Mm-hmm.
nurturing side, a fathering, a loving side, a caring side. And that is where we become unified in that father-son identity and relationship. See, Grant, identity is not based on how many dollars you have in the bank or how many toys you have in the toy chest, or cars or clothing, or even a girlfriend or a wife. And it's also, your identity is not from your success or your failures. Your identity comes from relationship. And so that's why the beginning, here's my outline, is who's your daddy?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can have Father God be our dad, of course. But as a man, are we going to be a father to ourselves? Are we going to learn to be saying, yeah, man, you got what it takes. I believe in you. You can go rescue that beauty. You can slay the dragon. You can go on your adventure. And one of the things I also say, I don't know if you saw this on other shows that you watched, Grant, but one thing I love to do here on the show is, Grant, hear me now. I give you permission to pursue your dreams. I believe in you. I believe that you got what it takes. I trust you. I want to see you take action. Don't be a passive hero, because passive heroes aren't heroes. But you are the author of your story. And you need to be the hero on your hero's journey. And heroes go on a great adventure. They may never know exactly where they're going to go, But if they know who they are, they can take on any beast. And one of the things that we need to learn is we need to deal with the beast within ourselves and then love the child within. So I give you permission granted today to go after your dreams. The religious system, the church, the unhealthy church, the toxic church, the abusive church will try to crush your desire, will try to crush your dreams and say, who do you think you are? You can't do this. I don't believe that. That's a lie. Did God really tell you that? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the wrong system. What you need is not a system, but a kingdom. And the Bible says that it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but it is the glory of kings to search a matter out. So what does the glory of a glory of God look like? Well, John Eldridge writes in his book, says the glory of God is the heart of a man fully alive. Now, if God gets glory, when a heart of a man becomes fully alive, what triggers that moment? When the king searches a matter out. When you discover your royalty, Grant. See, you need a kingdom. And if Jesus is the Lord of Lords and King of Kings, where are his lords? And where are his kings? Grant, look in a mirror. You're one of them. You are a king. You are a lord. You're not the Lord or the king, but you are a king and a lord. And you are a man. And I approve of you. And I bless you today as a man. And see, for a man, we can't get our strength from women. John Eldridge talks about that. We can't get it from women. But a man can impart strength to another man. And that's what I'm doing for you right now. I'm imparting to you strength. Are you still there, Grant? I think your video's frozen. Oh, no. That's not good. Well, guys, hopefully he can come back. Grant, if you can hear me, hang up and call me back, okay? So while you're frozen, I'm going to talk to the audience. So guys, if you're in the audience, go ahead and chime in and chat here. And give me a question, give me a comment, and let me know what you're thinking about what this is saying, this conversation. I'd love to hear from you. Here we go. Grant's going to come back. So let me bring up my video. This is fun. He's going to come back. I know it. Yeah, guys, so this is really a very deep conversation. This is a really vital conversation for our lives. And it's so important to discuss this because men need this and women need this too. Women need to understand what is the wounds in our hearts as men and the problems that we face. So, yeah, I was just, here we go. He's coming back. All right. There we go. Grant, bringing you back.
Hey.
Hey, man. Sorry we lost you. So what was the last thing you heard from me?
The last thing I heard was that, I'm not the Lord, but Lord of Lords, and or basically looking within a mirror. Mm-hmm. That was the last bit that I saw, yeah.
That's cool. Okay, yeah. So, the thing is, what happens when God becomes alive? When God has glory, right? The glory of God is the heart of a man fully alive. And for you come alive when you find out you're searching, right? And you discover your royalty. Mm. That is who you are. So I give you great affirmation right now as a man. My strength inside of me, I impart to you, and I affirm you, and I qualify you as a man. And so that is what you need to, like Mike Smith just said, I definitely can relate to the child within that you're talking about. Nurturing our inner child is important. When you as an adult, Grant, discover your royalty as a king, that means that little Grant inside that prison cell is a prince. Mm-hmm. And you get to make him and bring him up into your royalty. And then he can trust you, right? And then you can trust yourself. And so I just want to there's a lot of deep stuff, and I know that we're talking about here, but this story is so profound. Actually, this is one of my more significant stories that I've gotten. I think. I mean, everyone's great, but
Yeah.
it's really powerful. Now, I want to ask you to talk now. I want you, if you're willing to talk, share whatever's on your heart, and give me some feedback here. Help me. I've talked a lot. Give me some feedback.
Yeah. No, I think everything you've been saying is spot on. I think, and I definitely, that's been a journey that I've been walking for a really long time. And I've just been trying to figure out, okay, what's the, because that's something I want. And, I'm not trying to strive, even though I have tried to strive for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, okay, well, what's the missing link? You know what I mean? Like, it just hasn't fully clicked yet. I mean, there's days where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I feel like it's totally, we're on cloud nine. And there's other days it's like, oh shoot, I missed it, but coming back to it,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah. So I would say what you're saying is spot on. I haven't felt like that thing that was just fully coming alive, um, where it's actually like, it makes sense in my head to my heart, that journey connects.
Right. I understand. They talk about they talk about the 12-inch drop, from your
Yeah.
mental
Yeah. Yep.
ascent to your heart, and that's something I absolutely understand and struggled with. Um, One of the things I had learned is that the striving, we're trying to do something. Well, the Bible says that we love Him because He first loved us. So if we have an empty tank, we're not going to love ourselves very well, or love God, or love anybody else very well. The beginning is a receiving position, or is coming into receive, and like these stories are meant to be experiences. So when you receive love, it's an experience, right? So use this story as an anchor and go back and let the imagination of your heart meet with the general. The general is going to come back in your life, Grant, through your imagination. And if you gather what I'm saying, who the general is, right? And the power of story is it's an experience. And so the general can come back and speak to you what you need, and to receive that love. So that goes from here down to here, that drop,
Mm-hmm.
where it's an aha moment, because you need revelation of His love. And so that is part of a place of receiving, but you have to engage with it. You don't ask mental questions. You don't read books only. It's meant to be experienced by interactive relationship in your imagination. God gave us an imagination that is good, and is meant to be involved with. And if you have a conversation with God and you hear something, make sure you ask multiple follow-up questions and
Mm-hmm.
ponder with Him. He wants you to be hearing more than you talking. He wants you to be more seeing than you are talking. It's a relationship, and He wants to show you beautiful things, and give you that revelation. And then this story is an anchor for you to go back and go back to little Grant, take care of things, work on things. I encourage you to do that with Marcia or Edwin, her husband, and help whoever you feel trustworthy to be with, to guide you in these things as a mentor. Mike Smith says, Grant, you can do all things. You are more than a conqueror. No weapon formed against you will ever prosper or hinder you from your destiny.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's
I appreciate
beautiful.
it.
That's great. Wow. Well, do you have any final thoughts, Grant, before we wrap this up?
Uh, no, not at the moment. No, I really appreciate it, and I'm sure I'm excited to listen to it again
Yes.
and munch on it some more. And I'll definitely, if that's okay, maybe send you a ping and follow
Sure,
up with some
that would be
things. Yeah.
great. I'd be happy. I'm available for you. Now, what would you tell someone that has never heard of prophetic stories? What would you say to them about what we're doing here? And would you encourage them to get their own story?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I was going into today like with excitement slash like I have no idea, but God, I'm just open to it, and I just pray that you're glorified through it. Um, so I would really encourage someone if they're thinking about getting a story to definitely because it's beautiful. You're getting to look in within, So I would definitely recommend it.
Great. Thank you very much, Grant. Yeah, for those of you in the audience who are watching this on live or on the replay, if you want to receive a prophetic story from me, go to legendsofthewind.com and go to the store and look for the product called Become a Legend. Now, this is not church. This is not ministry time. We are using my creative skills and talent and time to give you a portrait, a painting in a story form that is a creative work, just like someone making a musical album or a movie or something like that, that is still inspired by divine nature. And so that's why we do charge money for this, because we spend our time on this. This is not just at a church conference getting ministry time. So if you want to get a story, I highly recommend it. If you can go look back at all our videos on YouTube, check us out, watch other shows, and see what other experiences people have had, because everyone has been incredibly touched. So go to legendsofthewind.com and go to the product under the store, Become a Legend. And also, like I said, you can order our book there, Legends of the Wind Volume 1. You can also order an illustrated cover for a special one-time print of your story. So I just highly encourage you to do that, because your life will truly be changed and transformed through these experiences. Our show is on Mondays and Thursdays. We're going to be moving soon to just Mondays only, because I'm going to be teaching homeschool now for my daughter Kylie. And so I have to have time with my regular job and also with my wife. So we need more time with our family. So we're going to be going soon to once a week. And Mondays at 8 p.m. Mountain, 7 Pacific, and sometimes on Thursdays. If you want to email me, you can reach me at support@legendsofthewind.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you've read our book and you like our writing, please leave a review at Amazon. We'd love to do that. And if you've enjoyed this show, I encourage you, please subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, and hit the bell button as well. We are building our audience, and we're wanting to connect with more people. One of the things that's beautiful about this show is that we're getting to meet amazing people that we've never met before, yet we get to reveal to them their stories, and it becomes like this huge new family that's opening up into our lives. So it's an amazing time. So thank you so much, Grant, for being on our show. Thank you for being with me. By the way, Grant, when we close the show, there'll be a 2-minute song of music. Please do not hang up. I want to talk to you after the broadcast ends, so we'll still be connected, so don't hang up, okay?
Okay.
Cool, man. So, guys, thank you in the audience for watching. Marcia, I don't know if you're still here, but thank you very much for your comments, Mike and Marcia and Alisha and Kylie. It's an honor and pleasure to do what we do here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next broadcast. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jurri.
Thank you. Have fun. Bye.